Breakfast and brilliant ideas, coffee and conversation, we're serving up that and much more at IBJ Media's events. Join us at an upcoming event and kickstart your day with fresh ideas and new connections. Check out our event lineup and register now at ibj.com/RSVP.
This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. I'm Alex Brown. FARMWISE Indiana, an organization aimed at growing the supply chain for locally produced food, has officially launched as a standalone nonprofit. Executive Director Jody Smith says the organization has been housed at IU's Environmental Resilience Institute for the past 2 years, but going independent was always the goal.
That was the plan, to be able to spend the time building a nonprofit that could stand on its own 2 legs in the state of Indiana, that really was very mission focused and driven to make Indiana grown and raised foods more accessible to all Hoosiers.
FARMWISE utilizes a network of value chain professionals who work to foster relationships between farmers and food buyers, such as schools, restaurants, and hospitals. Terry Valmasoy, who 30 years ago co-founded what is now one of the largest manufacturers of swim spas and hot tubs in the world, plans to step down as MasterSpas CEO. Valmasoy plans to retire June 30th, but will remain on the Fort Wayne Company's board. President Kevin Richards will assume the CEO role. Indianapolis-based Build BW plans to break ground by September on a $75 million luxury lifestyle hotel near the Fishers Event Center. The 100,000-square-foot hotel is expected to have 125 guest rooms, plus 4 restaurants on the first floor and 14,000 square feet of indoor event space on the second floor. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media podcast network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at ibj.com to learn more.
Almost 1,800 non-citizen truck and bus drivers without specific employment-based visas lost their commercial driver's licenses Wednesday as a new statutory ban took effect. IIB's Aubriana Herron has more.
House Enrolled Act 1200, authored by Republican State Representative Jim Pressel of Rolling Prairie, narrowed eligibility by requiring that non-domiciled commercial drivers hold H-2A, H-2B, or E-2 visas to receive and maintain their CDLs, effective April 1st. The visas are for temporary agricultural and agricultural workers, as well as for investors. The provisions are similar to a recent federal rule. Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles spokesman Greg Dunn said nearly all non-domiciled drivers, totaling about 1,790 people, were notified by mail that they have lost their CDL privileges. The new law makes driving a commercial vehicle with a false CDL or a foreign one without additional entry documents a Level 6 felony. An individual driver is subject to a civil penalty of $5,000 with employers at $50,000. The law also blocks the BMV from expanding CDL testing to other languages. The agency currently administers the exams only in English, according to Dunn. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced plans last month to add an English-only CDL testing mandate to federal regulations. Aubriana Herron, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Officials in Grant County broke ground this week on the new Gas City YMCA, which is being billed as a significant step forward for early childhood education, family support, and community wellness for the county. The $24.5 million facility, set to open next summer, will be owned by the city and operated in partnership with the Grant County Family YMCA, which will oversee the gymnasium and aquatic center, and Mississinawa Community Schools, which will oversee an early learning center. The school district plans to expand its Ole Miss preschool program into the facility beginning in the 2027-28 academic year. Indianapolis-based radiopharmaceutical company Spectron RX this week announced it has secured $85 million in financing from New York-based private investment firm OrbiMed to expand its medical isotope production and manufacturing capacity at its facility near Grissom Air Reserve Base in Bunker Hill. CEO John Zahner said the investment is the result of growth that the radiopharmaceutical industry has seen in recent years.
We see it in the clinical side and the pharmaceutical side. But I think this demonstrates that from the financial standpoint, people who look at this and decide if it's a good investment or not continue to put their money towards this industry, which continues to make it look like a very good investment going forward.
Spectron RX said it will use the funding to continue scaling production of critical medical isotopes used in diagnostic imaging and radioligand therapies. Marion County Public Health Department Director Dr. Virginia Kane is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, and entertainment, and beyond. Available now on the IBJ Media app or your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.
From broadcast to podcast, Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is now available anytime on YouTube or in your podcast feed. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcast or at ibjpodcast.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.